if I should just give you a bit of a background, ukuthi thina kuze kanjani ukuthi sifiwe property. So when I was in grade 12, I think, there was this company. I'm sure if you have actually read about property, you'd know umuntu obambiza Robert Kiyosaki. So they had one of their seminars Konalapa, and then we went there, and I saw somebody. They were not as young as me. I'm sure we bangdlulanga 5 years. However, they had already got into property investing. So now I asked myself, okay, looking at him and looking at myself, what's the difference between us? And now I saw Guti, I don't have the information that he has in terms of what to implement in property investing. So that's when I called Uputwami. He was still interning at Neo. We have to go into this course. They're going to charge us an amount. I don't want to say that amount. They're going to charge us that amount. So Uneo by then.
No, you need to say it.
Yeah.
You need to say it so that we can understand how bad it was and how much I was earning at that time.
No, it's okay. I'll say it. So Bugui 5,000. So at that time, Neo was getting paid 5,000 on a monthly basis. Right? So now you can only understand this person wants us to pay 5,000. 5,000 on a monthly basis. But I was able to actually convince him, okay, if we don't do that now, chances are we'll never do it. So that's when I was like, no, let's go into this.
100%. So good afternoon, ladies and gents. What we're going to be doing today is that we're going to be looking at property investing or buying a property. So into Soyenza today is that Lebo will be speaking from a business perspective, and then Minangzo Kuluma from a personal perspective, because we believe that there's been a paradigm shift when it comes to property investing. What do I mean when I'm saying that there's been a paradigm shift? Is that ekaleni umuntu mawumbona antshela ukuthi ngine property sicabanga ukuthi lo muntu lo unemali. However, that's not the case right now. What can happen is that you can see somebody owning 22 units. However, they are making a loss. Today, into Soyenza, with this time that we have, we're going to challenge your mindset. So I'm praying and I'm hoping that you'll be open so that even when it comes to question and answer, we get to understand what were you guys speaking about. So please put that in mind. So right now, what we'll be also doing is Salama calculator. So if you do have a phone, please because I know most of the time when you have such engagements, is 10. So if you do have a phone or you have a paper, please do, so that we're all on the same page. And we'll be asking questions there and there so that we're all on the same page, right? So let's talk about finishing the bond faster, right? So when it comes to finishing the bond faster, I'll speak about it from you speaking about business, right?
Yeah.
And I'm taking personal. So what happens is that sometimes you'll hear somebody that, no, instead of taking a bond at 20 years, how about we actually finish it in 10 years? So if I'm looking at that from a personal perspective, let's just say in 500,000, right? So I was paying 5,000 on a monthly basis. So now what I'm saying is that instead of paying 5,000, let me pay 10,000. So what's going to happen is that instead of 20 years, 10 years. So now I actually want to give you an example, right? I want to give you example in terms of under personal capacity. So if I calculator, I'm 500,000 for 20 years at interest rate, it's 8.25. Deposit 0. So this is what it means, right? If you're lost, let me get you back, right? If I bought a house for 500,000, within 20 years, interest rate the bank charge on it was 8.25. That means in 20 years I would have paid 1 million. Please write that down, right? So taking a 500,000, you would have paid 1 million. I want to get this correct because it's on camera. I'm full of figures. It's 1,022,478.72 cents, right? That's the first case scenario. That's for 20 years. Let's look at low, the same amount. So it's the same amount, and then we're taking it to 10 years. I would have paid 735,915. So the difference, as Nyawona, there is a difference from the person who paid it from 20 years to 10 years. So that's when sometimes you'll hear somebody saying, do you know what? Pay your bond faster. But now, let's look at this from a business perspective. Does this principle still stand?
So, mina ngithanda ukudlala ama game. Ne? And now in playing games, I want to look at property investing as a game, right? So there's the game rules. If you are actually going to go into buying a property, when you pay it faster, you would have paid less than what you would if you are paying it over 20 years. So now let's look at it from a business perspective. Business is a different type of game. You are thinking, let me pay it faster in the business side, then you have the wrong game plan. Ngoba business assumes if I'm actually taking out money on a monthly basis from my pocket and giving it to this property, it's a loan. Ne? So now everybody is thinking let me pay it faster even though you business. So whenever you have a property that has a back room, you're already in business because you have monthly expenses that you need to pay and you have an income, right? So automatically you're in business. But now it's a different game plan. You are running it as a business because now there are a lot of elements things such as I have one property and I want to move from one property and buy my next property. How do I do that? So now if bond faster, this means if you go and apply for a second bond, what the bank is going to do expenses wako. So you are paying faster with the site lilia. Mara ishaya ini affordability yako. So you can't apply for the next bond because the bank assumes you don't have enough money to service the second bond. So what do we do now? We are looking at okay, if my monthly bond meleng patale 5,000 on a monthly basis, and I know after all of my expenses, let's say in selling a 4,000, I can go to the bank and say that bank ne 5,000 lana, and I'm getting an additional 4,000. How about 4,000 lena only as a second bond? That's when the bank will say, okay, I'm looking at your income and expenses, you can qualify for the next bond. That's when we're actually moving now as a business. Yeah. So now here's the problem, right? Can you please just raise your hand up if you know somebody that owns a property in a back room? Or just any property? Please just raise your hand. If we own a property, who knows someone that owns more than one properties? Okay, 2 properties. Okay, on top of that. Okay, so now we only have 2 people. Now we can see we know how to buy my first property. So I just got retrenched or I'm going on pension and I'm able to buy my first property, my second property. Now, how do I move now from these 2 properties onto my third properties? And that's the information that you really need to know. Okay, how do I position affordability so that it enables me to buy my next properties and I don't really have a cap with how many properties can I actually purchase?
So that's paying the bond faster, right? Let's go to ownership. So when it comes to ownership, again, I'll be speaking about the personal side, on a personal capacity, right? This recently happened in Ekaya, and I'm sure that we all experiencing this Ekaya. So what happened is that the house was owned by Ubaba, no mama. They were married in community of property. I know that this is a sensitive topic, but I remember no mama, no baba, Skulman Ayaguti, Yazin, I don't want to get married in community of property. And then they were looking at us, Guti, I'm already preparing myself for exit. Whereas I was like, sometimes we need to understand, Guti, what does this really mean for the family as a whole? Now let's question that today, looking at personal capacity. If umama no baba, they married, and then they're owning a house, right? And then, so this house is under both of them, right? God forbid something happens, as I did mention, so now the property needs to be transferred either under ugogo, aiwan. So now what that means is that transfer costs need to be paid again. So even though we didn't buy that property and it's still the same property, but let's just say that it was worth about 1 million. So manje, transfer costs that amount to 20,000 needs to be paid again by the family. So then the question will come back, Uguti, we really need to look at ownership. Uguti, how does it affect us as a family? Because now, if we don't solve this thing, no gogo na magahamba. Let's say Uguti kuzolandela umama wami. Na yemela patalele 25,000 le food. So we really need to understand how does ownership affect our family. So that's when we understand something that's called a trust. So what a trust is, it's owned by the trust. It's not owned by an individual, a family. So if anybody passes on, it's still owned by the family trust. So that's under ownership, under personal capacity. So
now let's look at it from a business perspective. So now when you're looking at a business, if you buy a property, already we know that we're speaking about a lot of money. So when you're looking at a property of 500,000, you buy a property I5 with 500,000. That means that imali in my 2.5 million, right? So now looking at what Neo spoke about Konamanje, if I was owning it under e-personal and I'm saying, I want to leave it to my spouse or I want to leave it to my brother, Leo 2.5 million, if all my properties have to be transferred from my name into Ikamalaga Putwan, he needs to pay ama transfers, 2.5 million. And now looking at ama transfers with 2.5 million, it could actually get to around 100,000. And now the thing is, most of the time, as parents, we think, Guti, I need to leave a legacy to my children. Right? And I'm saying, Guti, I'm buying this house, and now this house is going to be a legacy to my children. Now you can only picture, Guti, if umtanakuna 19, and now they are forced to pay ama transfers with 2.5 million, which may amount to 100,000. How will they afford that money? That's why we always saying, Guti, whenever you purchase a property, it's important for you to put systems in place. Guti, now the property business can actually run. Most of the time we hear, Guti, this saying, ekasi bati umuntu hambe nama business wakhe, right? Agahambanga nama business wakhe, it's just that they didn't transfer information from what they know to what the children may not know. If you are actually going to go into property, make sure that uyabachazela bonke abantwana bakho or whoever you're going to be leaving the properties to, or in that case any business, explain to them, okay, these are the things that you need to do in order to keep it running.
So there was ownership, right? And then now another thing as we touch is interest rates. I've seen this schoolman abantu, they don't want to hear interest rate iminan. We just focus in property. Sport talked about this, so back to our calculators or back to WhatsApp, right? I'm going to be giving you an example of how bad does interest rate affect you as a person, right? So if we're looking at the same property, taking a 500,000, we're paying it for 20 years. So because I hated credit, I know mankuluma credit no mamati. Credit is the worst thing that you can ever do. But one day, so tenga izindlu, and among tenga indlu, ibank yenzani, ibheka ukuthi track record yami ukuthi how have I been paying? If I have not been paying interest or I have not taken any credit, bazenzani izobuyela kimi bathi you are bad, your interest rate is going to be high. So we need to invest in understanding what the interest rate is affected kanjani. So using this example, the same house, so let's just say it's two exact houses go. So gune house A is on 6 and then gune A, they directly next to each other. Both have a 4-bedroom, nothing different about each other. So the one is actually paying at 9.25%. So Lomuntu Law, please write this down. They will be paying 4,579 on a monthly basis, because of interest rate, right? So we've got person number 2, much. With person number 2, it's the same, it's identical, listen to this. So now because they didn't they didn't invest in interest or in credit, they are being charged at 10%. And I want to show you the difference. We looked at 9.25, and a manja we're looking at 10%. It's not even 1%, right? But now look at it when we're looking at the numbers. What was the monthly bond level still to be calculated, manja? 4,579, right? So manja option B, which is 10%, this guy is being paid, he's paying 4,825. So where am I taking this? I'm saying that we can have two people owning 2 apartments next to each other. Low yenzi loss, low yenzi profit, but they're the same. So we really need to understand what credit does affect us. Whether you like it or not, it's going to catch up with you. So in conclusion, right, it goes back to how we started. There's been a paradigm shift. Instead of looking at everybody that has a property or 22 rooms, we need to understand, number 1, interest rates. We need to be understanding, number 2, the income versus expenses, and number 3, ownership. Because if you don't understand lento lezi 3, they can cripple your business or even a family house before you even started. So yeah, that's it from us.
Hey,
that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.